Yeah, what's up, everybody? Hope it's a happy Monday for you. Welcome to Fantasy Football Today, presented by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. This is Beyond the Box Score, advanced stats from simple people, but we don't really have a lot of advanced stats today. We're doing a different version of the show. So this is the weirdest week of football coming up, week 17, in football history. I mean, are you kidding me? We have 2 games on Wednesday, right? Kansas City at Pittsburgh. Yeah, I think we can't just watch basketball on Christmas. We got to watch football too. All right, well, it's fine. We've got a game on Thursday, Seattle at Chicago. So the 2 Wednesday games are Kansas City, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Houston. Then we got Seattle at Chicago on Thursday. We've got 3 games on Saturday. Well, we can't just watch the Hurricanes, everybody. We can't just watch Cam Ward in the bowl game on Saturday. We got to watch 3
about that.
You
just kidding, I do. Yeah.
You care a lot. We got Chargers, Pats, Broncos, Bengals, Cardinals, Rams. And then we've got a Sunday game. And, of course, we have Detroit at San Francisco Monday night. So I got to get into my start-sit research. So I was like, you know what? Let's do a little bit of that on the show today. So I asked the people, I said, who are you worried about trusting in Week 17? And that's what we're going to talk about today. But we'll give you the advanced Beyond the Box Score spin on it. Jacob, what's going on? Good morning to you. How are you?
I'm psyched, man. I am a true sicko, live, breathe football during this time of year, so I don't even know what any of that stuff you mentioned is that we're overlapping with. Just give me more football every day.
Well, yeah.
Great.
No, I mean, it's weird from a work standpoint. I think it's throwing everyone's weekly routine off to have these games on Wednesday. And as Heath said, if you missed it on last night's show, if your league runs waivers Wednesday night, you need to change that. Imagine running waivers after 2 games are played, right? Like, it's just a crazy idea. So anyway, let's rock and roll here. Dallas 26, Tampa Bay 24. This was a really fun
I don't
game.
get my intro. Wow.
You've been interrupting me the whole time. You did your own intro.
I did no intro. I'm still sour because in the Bake Burger Dynasty League, I put together one of the best teams you can even imagine. I won points, and it's one of those leagues that doesn't give any of the prize pool toward the points winner of the regular season. I just don't get that, and I never really will.
Whose decision is that?
Adams.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like he's just anything to get.
It's like everyone knows that you got to give some of the prize pool toward the points winner. It's the best player in the regular season. It's just
everyone knows that. Okay.
I was gonna say, I think only like a third of my leagues do that.
all my big ones do.
0% of my leagues do that. All right. Anyway, let's get to it. Dallas 26, Tampa Bay 24. And yeah, Jalen McMillan with a big game. So Jalen McMillan, here's your Beyond the Box Score. He is one of 4 wide receivers with 4 or 5 touchdowns over the last 3 games, but he is the only one of that group, which is Jefferson, Addison, McMillan, and Devontae Adams. He's the only one that doesn't have a touchdown catch from inside of 15 yards. So he's not getting a lot of layups here. Well, he's had like a couple of wide open ones that have been on bad coverage or whatever. But look, the question is, do we go with Jalen McMillan in the fantasy championship? He is red hot. He has scored like over 15 fantasy points in 3 straight games, and he gets Carolina next week. Jacob, how you feeling about McMillan?
So first, I wanted to say that I like when you do Beyond the Box Score stats, Adam. I think that they're always cool, and you don't have to approach it tongue-in-cheek. I think you can just do it, and it's dope.
Oh, no, I just wanted to let people know I wasn't just punting on today's show. I really did dig in and find some extra stats and stuff like that, yeah.
You always do. It's great stuff. McMillan, I loved his tape coming in. It's been a kind of frustrating year for him, like tough for him to get going in the actual box score until recently, but I think you could attribute some of that to injuries. And then also, he's a rookie receiver. I think we're a little spoiled because we keep having these rookie receivers come in and just be awesome right away. And it took him some time, but now he's playing really well. And he's a full-time player out there. And the underlying volume numbers keep getting better. He led the team in first read targets. But overall, like, the Bucs are spreading the ball around a ton. So any given week he could disappoint, but that's kind of par for the course of receiver. So if you've ridden him and you are in a 3-receiver league or wherever you might need to use him, I think you can still trust them.
Yeah, we got a lot of pass attempts from Baker Mayfield. We had 43 pass attempts. They've been hot. They've been winning a lot of games. They've been winning without giving up a lot of points. Yesterday was not the case, and you finally got more than 33. You got 43 fantasy points. So next week against Carolina, he threw 33 passes just a few weeks ago against Carolina, and that's definitely something to keep in mind. Any takeaways from you on this game, Dan?
Yeah, for me, it's the other side of the ball. Last week, Jacob and I had a chance to do our one big game film breakdown for Beyond the Box Score, and that was Tampa Bay versus LAC. And I was discussing just from the film standpoint how much Tampa Bay dominated the interior defensive line versus the Chargers' interior offensive line. And I think this game is a good example of just how far the Cowboys have come from an offensive line standpoint. And that is something I expect to carry over these last two games and into the fantasy championship. It's something that's going to impact my kind of rankings on players like Rico Dowdle, CeeDee Lamb, even in 2 QB leagues, somebody like Cooper Rush.
So Dowdle's really interesting because he had a horrible game. He did score 8.1 fantasy points, which felt lucky. And you had Zeke coming in for this goal line touchdown, which was just a punch in the gut. And this team, by the way, has the fewest carries in football from the 1 to 3 yard line, or the 3 yard line or closer. They have 7 all year. So I can't even tell you who their goal line back is. I definitely thought that would be Dowdle at this point, but they brought in Zeke. He gets the 1 yard score. But Dowdle has been so good. I think he was averaging 5 yards per carry coming into the game, 13 carries for 23 yards against the Bucs, who have not had a good run defense this season. So he'll be a tough call at Philadelphia next week. And I think it might, my enthusiasm for Dowdle might depend on which quarterback the Eagles have, because I think they could beat Dallas. Like if they have Jalen Hurts, then it might be a one-sided game. Might be. Dallas is playing pretty well. I got to give them that. But Philadelphia is really good with Jalen Hurts, obviously. And we don't want that for Dowdle. But, just a bad game for him. It happens. He'd been on kind of a roll. But just keep in mind, he has 1 rushing touchdown all year. And now we have a little bit of uncertainty about who would get that goal line carry. Who do you guys think has do you think CeeDee Lamb has averaged more PPR fantasy points per game with Dak Prescott in his starts or with Cooper Rush in his starts?
Cooper Rush.
It is somehow Cooper Rush.
It is not Cooper Rush. You guys are not beyond the box score. You are in front of the box score. 2-point difference. But he has definitely been more consistent with Cooper Rush. He has not had, other than that first game, really, where Cooper Rush threw for 50-something yards. He's been very consistent. With Dak, he had a blow-up game at San Francisco, but he had a lot of crummy games. So it's kind of interesting. A lot of momentum for CeeDee Lamb going into next year.
We've somehow gone 7 minutes and 7.5 minutes without shouting out Brian Thomas Jr. So here it is. Daddy Life says BTJ deserves all the attention Gibbs gives to him every episode. He's taking me to the ship, and he's right. Another shout out for Brian Thomas Jr.
For real, a savior this week. I had leagues where I had no business winning, and BTJ just saved me.
Wait, why can't Malik Neighbors be running 30 yards away from any defender, like uncovered up the sideline for an easy touchdown? Why can't that happen to why does it only happen to Brian Thomas Jr.?
Fair question. I think it's just our life right now as a Giants fan, Adam. It really is. That was pathetic yesterday. My God. It
was a great day yesterday. Great day. Right now.
They locked up the number 1 pick for now. Hopefully they don't win.
Oh, no, they're definitely going to beat the Eagles. Definitely beat the Eagles. All right, whatever. That's it for that game. Let's move on here. I will say, CeeDee Lamb, his quote, this is what he said about his shoulder. I love this game that much. I'm literally willing to put my body out there on the line for my guys. Not so much to show how tough I am, but it shows. It's the ground that's beating me up, bro. I can't avoid it. So,
doesn't sound great.
No, of course you're starting him, but let's just hope he makes it through the game. All right. News and notes. Oh, wait, before we do that, get out there and vote, right? You got to vote. Sportspodcastgroup.com. Takes 30 seconds. Sportspodcastgroup.com.
Bang,
vote now. Yep. Fantasy betting and gaming category. Fantasy football today. If you're here, then you're probably in your championship, right? Like, I feel like you can thank us with a vote. I'm not saying I'm not saying you need to, but that'd be a nice thing to do. It's the holidays. Vote.
Give us a holiday vote. Throw us a holiday cheer. Drop us some.
Sports Podcast Group.
Quick sports aside, that I have a debate for you guys that I'm having in a group chat. Quick aside. This group chat is made up of basically all parts equal: Eagles, Giants, Commanders, and Jets fans. Jets fans, there's maybe one fewer. Rest of career, contract aside, who would you rather have to start your franchise? Rest of career, not including the contract. Jaden Daniels or Jalen Hurts?
Wow. I almost just said this is an easy call, but then I caught myself because it shouldn't be an easy call.
Jaden Daniels.
I would say Jaden Daniels.
Yeah. So, a lot of the argument made by the Eagles fans, those are the only ones really taking Hurts. Hurts has proved it before. Jaden is 1 year. Look at what happened with CJ Stroud from year 1 to year 2. All fair points. But I mean, the stuff that Jaden Daniels is doing is so special. That's like how I would term what he was able to do yesterday with, what did he have, 38 seconds on the clock, having to go a full field touchdown. And everything he did on that drive, that one run for the first down was so calm and collected. And then the touchdown pass is just like perfect anticipatory throwing and timing and touch and ball placement, throwing it into that window. I mean, those are the special moments you see. I think I saw a stat where in the fourth quarter, he has like the most something. I got to look up the stat. I lost the stat and I wanted it and I got to find it again. Something about fourth quarter touchdown passes, I believe. So I just feel like from my standpoint, it's Daniels, but Eagles friends, my Eagles friend fans are telling me that I'm biased.
Oh, they're the biased ones. I mean, obviously, but it's just so funny how you get such a different answer. You can't get neutrality. If you ask that question to a million, 1,000 Eagles fans and 1,000 Commanders fans, and then you just ask neutral parties, it would be just.
Well, that's why I put it up on my Twitter, but then my Eagles fan friend said it's a bias because it's all Giants fans on your Twitter.
All right. Well, mine definitely is not. So I'll put that question up right now. News and notes. Dorian Thompson-Robinson's going to start if he's healthy. Drew Lock is getting an MRI on his shoulder. That is unbelievable how beat up the Giants quarterbacks get. The only one who stayed healthy was Daniel Jones.
I know.
And then you got Jalen Hurts with a concussion. You got Kenny Pickett with injured ribs. So we'll see. They play Sunday, thankfully, against Dallas. At running back, we got James Conner with the knee, Ken Walker with the ankle, Justice Hill concussion. Got Tank Dell with the dislocated kneecap, CeeDee Lamb with the shoulder, Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill could have had a big game, but he dropped some balls, had some opportunities. He said he needs to practice more. He said missing those Wednesday reps is hurting him. And I thought that was pretty interesting. We take it for granted, right? They don't need to practice. But he said that is starting to hurt his game. We're hoping for George Pickens this week against the Chiefs on Wednesday. What? Drake London, hamstring injury, apparently not serious. Jalen Tolbert, though, hurt his finger, and Sterling Shepard left with the hamstring injury. Jets lost left tackle Olu Fashanu. I don't know the severity there. The Cardinals could be without 3 offensive linemen next week. We'll see. They're at the Rams. The Bengals right tackle Amarius Mims left with an ankle injury. On defense, I'm really keeping an eye on because we're about to talk about Mahomes and co. Really keeping an eye on the Steelers injury report because it looks like Joey Porter's hurt, and I can't imagine he's going to play, but they could be getting Deshaun Elliott and Dante Jackson back in their secondary, Larry Ogunjobi, so they could be pretty healthy other than Porter, but we'll see. Marshawn Lattimore left with a hamstring injury for Washington. And the Jets lost 2 defensive backs. Tony Adams and Sauce Gardner left with injuries. We'll see if they can get back for their game at Buffalo. All right. So, Dan, are we going to make any finals this year or what?
Oh, yeah. I have one, my actually most expensive league. I made the finals, which is also crazy because they do this weird thing where, another thing I'm really anti, but in the playoffs, the budget for free agency resets and everyone gets the same amount. I know. I'm so against this. And I was the one with the most money. And I didn't know this rule either, by the way. I joined this league without knowing this ridiculous rule. So now everyone and it's a 14-team league with a super flex. So like mad dash for backup QBs. I am now stuck going into the finals with no option at super flex outside of receiver and running back. So it's going to be one of those types of finals, but I just put up 245 because I have like CeeDee Lamb, Devon Achane, Chase Brown. Like my team is stacked outside of the quarterback position.
Good for you, man. And Jacob, I know you got some. You got Brian Thomas, so you're going to be in some finals.
Yeah, it was an okay year.
Not a good year for me. One finals is a bad year for me, considering how many leagues I was in.
All right, we'll see how tonight goes.
How about you?
I mean, I played in 5 semifinals.
Okay.
I lost 1, and the others are all up in the air right now.
That's kind of crazy going into this game, especially to have them all up in the air.
All I know is I haven't really looked at, he has this, he has that. I know I'm placing Jacob in 1. All I know is
I'll be rooting for Jacob.
Then you better root for the Saints because I need the Packers DST. I think I have the Packers DST in 3 leagues tonight, and I need them to come through, baby. And I feel good about that. But all right, we're going to take a break in a second here. I want to tell you about BetMGM. Let's get on that BetMGM app. Let's get that promo code going. The promo code is fantasy. It's not too late. Sign up with the promo code, the bonus code fantasy, and you're going to get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. So just download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code fantasy. Deposit at least $10, place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets. If your bet loses, just make sure that you use the bonus code fantasy when you sign up. All right, we'll be right back after this on Fantasy Football Today.
Welcome to JJ's.
I'll have a... Wait, there's no way I can get a burger?
No chance, but you can have the NFL on CBS streams live on Paramount+. Oh, hang on. There's a toy.
Well, I had some Wi-Fi issues over the weekend, so I drove to the Stamford office. Dan, of course, made fun of me for not knowing how to use a hotspot.
Still unbelievable that you never knew what hotspot was at this age.
I've heard of it. I just didn't really know how to do it. But I did feel very old. Like, you made me feel very old.
I just feel like you've missed out on so many opportunities in your life where you could have used a hotspot and just like, I have no option here. There's no internet. There's no Wi-Fi. I don't know what I'm going to do. Like,
so true. It's so true. I feel like I'm in that commercial where people are becoming their parents.
Yes.
You know?
Great commercial, by the way.
But I got to drive to work, which I listened to some music, and Billy Joel, Matter of Trust, came on. You like that song?
Never. Not sure I've heard it.
It's a great Billy Joel. What do you think? Did Jacob never heard it?
I like Billy Joel, but I don't know if I know that one.
No, it's always been a matter of trust. No?
Anything else?
Yeah.
That's a great song. Anyway, that's what week 17 is, right? Week 17 is a matter of trust. So that was just a long-winded way for me to sing. So do we trust the Chiefs offense? I asked people out there, who are you worried about trusting in week 17? So the Chiefs offense is one of them. They are at Pittsburgh. Jacob, unbiased Jacob here on the Chiefs offense. Now, do you trust them on Wednesday at Pittsburgh?
If Joey Porter is out, yeah, and especially if Joey Porter and George Pickens are out, because like teams have just been dominating the game, dominating the number of plays and possessions against the Steelers, because the Steelers they're just bad right now. They can't put points on the board. They can't move the ball without George Pickens. And well, a big problem is the Steelers have been running into really good run defenses, like basically the best run defenses in the NFL. And without Pickens, that's what they need to do is run the ball. And they've got another matchup like that against the Chiefs. So yeah, it's tough from a usage standpoint because like Isaiah Pacheco hasn't been scaled up at all. He's still just playing like a third of the snaps. So I don't really want to trust him, but Xavier Worthy, heck yeah, dude. Like everything looks great for him. He's really, found a lot more familiarity and like better timing with everything in the offense as the year's gone on. And, Marquise Brown, 8 targets, got targeted on half of his routes. They designed a lot of cool stuff to him in his first game back. I do think they'll put points on the board.
Yeah, right. Like how good is this matchup? You talked about Porter. I'm assuming he's going to be out, but again, they could be getting 3 other defensive starters back. I didn't really think Watt had much of an impact last week, and we know he's playing with a foot injury, so I hope that he can get better and healthier. But it's obviously a short turnaround. The Steelers' defense, when they face good offenses, has been awful, but almost all of that has been on the road. Like, look, Washington scored 27 points. Cincinnati scored 31 offensive points. Philadelphia scored 27 points. Baltimore just scored 27 offensive points. All of those games are on the road. 2 home games against good offenses, though. Dallas scored 20 points, and Baltimore scored 16. Is this team just one that plays so much better defensively at home? Let me tell you this, a couple stats. Patrick Mahomes, in his last 9 games, he leads the NFL in pass attempts, but he's only QB 9 per game in 6-point per passing touchdown leagues. And I assume he'll be somewhere near that range in the rankings this week. And Xavier Worthy, right? Like, he's a really interesting decision because no one's going to trust Hopkins, I think, at this point. And you can't trust Marquise Brown. We'll talk about Kelsey in a bit. Xavier Worthy has 3 catches of more than 20 yards this season. Isn't that strange? Travis Kelsey, this slow old Travis Kelsey has 8. And Xavier Worthy never makes a big play anymore. It's really weird. But he's getting, a decent amount of targets. He's getting 4 or more catches every week. He's scoring double-digit PPR fantasy points. as you said, Jacob, he's looking pretty good. But I just thought that was really interesting. You just look at the yards for Xavier Worthy; it's not really that impressive. And I got some Tank Dell news in a minute here, but
before last week's game, and he had 2 more that he could have had in this last week. Well, actually, just one of them was a long play. But before last week's game, I did a cut up where it was 10 plays of Mahomes throwing 30 more yards down the field to where he literally could have caught any of them. He was wide open on 5 of them. It's just been a weird year with that stuff. And I think you can see that turn around. Like, Devon Achane hasn't been able to get any yards all year. He's been struggling with efficiency all year. Finally gets a big play, and he's not as good as Achane, but he does have the speed. I think a big play can come in any given time.
I would agree with that. I think it's interesting watching this Chiefs offense as it's evolved through the year with all the different faces and injuries in it. I thought they were a much better unit with Joe Thuney over at left tackle. I assume they'll keep that based on what they see on tape. Having Marquise Brown out there, I think, adds to the solutions they can find against man on those 3rd and shorts. And that's the offense. Like, they lead the NFL in 10-play drives that go, 70 yards? Like, they're just matriculating the ball down the field, finding solutions. Somehow not through Travis Kelce anymore, which is still the oddest thing. I don't understand what happened to him. I haven't watched his tape. I don't know if you've watched it, Jacob. I don't think he's lost that much, though. Like, just watching him, it's not like a noticeable.
I do. I watch
it noticeable. So I'll have to watch.
He looks like a slug to me. I'm sorry to say it, but he still knows how to get open, and he's got 4 end zone targets this year. But
the way they play the Chiefs.
They didn't count one this past week. If you remember, he was wide open in the end zone, and then Xavier Worthy cut under him.
Yeah.
And Mahomes was clearly throwing to Kelce, and ended
right.
up being a worthy target. But
And it would have been a Kelce touchdown probably. And look, I'm not trying to say he hasn't lost a step or he's not. I haven't watched the tape of him specifically. I just feel like the things that the Chiefs do on offense, it shouldn't, even if he had lost a step, I feel like he should be having more production just based on the way that teams play the Chiefs, that top-down style. Like, it should be so many. There should be so much space in that intermediate middle for him. I think they've had some moments this year where their rapport hasn't been on point, which is weird, between Mahomes and Kelce, where the ball's just going in a spot where and you see Kelce even happen early in this game, and Kelce kind of threw his hands up, like, what's going on here? And it's so late for them in their careers together for that to be happening. So something weird's going on there to me. But overall with this offense, I think you can expect it to move the ball consistently in this game. And I actually thought there were definitely some signs of progress there with Brown on the field, with Hollywood Brown on the field.
Kelce's only averaging 3 yards after the catch per reception. It's almost always in the 5 or 6 range. I think that's where it's clearest that he has lost his step.
And I'll say kudos to I think was it you, Adam, or Heath, or someone who had this debate with, like, back in August or July, like, looking at the numbers from last year and, like, how big of an outlier they were in Kelce's career for things like you just mentioned, Jacob, yards after the catch, total touchdowns. And, there was is it a sign of he's falling off, or was he just injured last year in that Vikings game and it played out and it infected his efficiency stats? And it looks to me more likely like the other side of it was correct, that, like, he has taken that downtick in his career.
All right, so to sum it up, I think Mahomes is a low-end starter. I do still respect the Steelers, especially because I think they're going to get healthier for this game, not Porter. At home, it's a tough place to play. It really is. So I think he's a low-end starter. I don't really want to trust the running backs. We haven't talked about them, but you just don't know who it's going to be. They're splitting. I don't know who the goal line guy is. It's probably Kareem Hunt at this point. Hopkins is a no. Marquise Brown, not throwing him out there in week 17. Worthy is probably going to be, look, there's nobody on bye. They got a lot of good receivers. He's probably going to be around, I'm guessing, wide receiver 30 or so, be my guess. And then Kelce, do you go with, obviously not Brenton Strange, but do you go, I'm not going to start Chigo Okonkwo over him.
No.
But I feel like Hunter Henry might be safer. I'd still probably start Kelce.
You'd start Jonnu Smith over him.
I would definitely start Jonnu Smith over him. But yeah, I mean, I'm not expecting that much from Kelce right now. I feel like he's due.
That's what I felt like forever. But I don't.
He's going to score in this game. He was wide open in the end zone, and Xavier Worthy just like, oh, I'll take that, and he dropped it. All right, next up, the Tennessee running backs at Jacksonville. Really interesting one here.
Yep.
I'm just going to say there's no way I'm starting Tyjae Spears unless Pollard were ruled out. But I know Spears has had 2 enormous games in a row with 21.6, 27.2 fantasy points in his last 2 games. But I'm sorry, I'm not starting him. Is anybody going to trust Tyjae Spears this week?
He played more than Pollard in this game, and he had a 48% snap rate in the first half. In the first half, it was 6 carries for Pollard, 3 for Spears. Almost all of his production came in the second half is why I bring those splits up. He only had 3 rushes for 4 yards in the first half. But the playing time, I think he is part of the offense, but I do think it's kind of fluky what we've seen lately.
Yeah, look, they've been getting destroyed in the second half of these last two games.
Yeah.
Against the Bengals, they trailed 24-14 at halftime. They trailed 31-14 at the end of the third quarter. Against the Colts, they trailed 24-7 at halftime. It's killing Tony Pollard. Just Pollard's more involved, at the beginning of the game. My question was, why did Tyjae Spears get 2 rushing touchdowns in this game? Where was Pollard? So the first one came on a 3rd and 1. It was late in the third quarter and late in the fourth quarter. So they're playing from behind. He's on the field. So they just kept him on the field. It was 3rd and 1. They gave it to him at the 11-yard line. He scored. The second time, I do think Pollard had a chance to come back in the game. And they didn't put him back in the game. So it was like 1st down and goal from the 2. Pollard was in the game. He stayed in the game. He got a carry. He got stuffed. They kept Spears was in the game. He got a carry. He got stuffed. They kept Spears in the game, and he got another carry, and he scored. I felt like they could have put Pollard back in there if they wanted to. And then they definitely could have put Pollard back in for the 2-point conversion, but they didn't. They left Spears in. So my take is, if it's a good game script, which I think it will be against Jacksonville, it should be a competitive game. Jacksonville just gave up 2 touchdowns to the Raiders running backs. Jacksonville gives up the 2nd most fantasy points to running backs. I think Pollard will be better than Spears this week if he's healthy. I don't know. He's obviously hurt. So he's tough to trust. And it's a shame. He just had a very good game against the Jaguars just a few weeks ago. He had he had 21 carries for 102 yards and 2 catches for 22 yards. This would be a league winner if everything were, right in Tony Pollard's world. But the injury status definitely makes things more difficult. So I think I'm going to leave it at that. Let's go to our next one. I'm going to throw it to Dan. Tyrone Tracy Jr. against the Colts. You look at the box score, and there's not a lot of carries. It's not a ton of yards. He has scored 14 and a half or more PPR fantasy points in 4 of his last 6 games. So people don't want to leave that on their bench. What do you think about him against the Colts?
Yeah, I was wrong about this week to not start him in some of the spots. Obviously, he had that 1 touchdown catch that really changes his whole fantasy game log and outlook for the week. It's hard for me to get confident seeing what I've seen from this Giants offensive line, what's left of it, seeing what I've seen from just the quarterback situation overall. Drew Lock is undergoing an MRI, and it might be, I guess, Tim Boyle, or maybe they'll just do Tommy DeVito. It's hard to know at this point what's going to happen there. I guess, like, if you're desperate for a flex, it makes some sense because he's still a phenomenal talent. Like, that touchdown catch was amazing. He almost one-handed it and toe tapped 2 feet, and he's still a great talent. And we've talked about that all year, Jacob and I, just how interesting his tape was, just how good of a talent he is. So it's basically betting on a talent in a really bad situation. And I think that's fine at this stage of the season for a flex. I don't know if I could be confident in RB2 or RB1 spots.
They're using him more creatively, I feel like, in the receiving game. Like, I saw they ran a pre-snap motion look to him, got him out in space. They did some screens to him, of course. So I do feel good about that. I think I would have him above both the Tennessee guys we just talked about. Is that where you guys are?
That's fair, yeah. I'd probably have him above them again in this matchup.
I mean, I really want to put Pollard ahead of him because Jacksonville is a much better matchup than the Colts.
It's tough.
Colts is a good matchup too. But, I mean, you're getting so few carries. This team is not even competitive. The NFL, though, is the kind of game where it might be more competitive than you think, right? I thought the Giants were going to be more competitive against the Falcons, and then, you throw 2 pick sixes, throws that out the window. All right, yeah, I right now, I would probably start Pollard over Tracy, but I definitely see the argument. All right, can we trust David Njoku against the Dolphins, who stink against tight ends? He had 8 catches for 66 yards on 10 targets at Cincinnati. Jacob, can we trust Njoku?
I do think that when we've seen DTR in, like, if there's anyone that we can trust, it's Njoku. He's the short yardage guy for him. If DTR doesn't have a lane to run, then that's who he's probably going to be looking for. But yeah, the Browns, Dan, of course, nailed this last week, and it was no surprise. The Browns offense only produced 67 total catchable air yards this week, which is almost a fourth of what they've been putting up with Jameis. So they were between 150 to 200 yards per game with Jameis. So yeah, I don't really think you can trust any of them, but Njoku is the one who's the least affected by not being able to push the ball down the field because of where he runs his routes.
Right. And Njoku had most of his production in the second half in this game as well. So it looks like maybe they figured out some things that can work in the passing game, but that would be the only one I would trust as well.
Well, Jerome Ford is another guy who gets about 4 catches
In the passing game. Yeah.
Right. So it's Ford and Njoku. It's pretty much all he's throwing to. I think Dorian Thompson-Robinson threw for 15 yards in the first half.
I don't really understand like why Cleveland's playing him. The assumption is like, oh, we can maybe find our QB2 of the future cheap. He's had so many opportunities and he can't throw the football and can't keep an offense on time in the passing game. Like, just play Winston. Let your guys have fun. Like, let Jerry Jeudy eat. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me at all.
I completely agree, and it's it's bad for fantasy, obviously, and it's weird with Njoku. It's like here's what he has scored now in 4 games with Dorian Thompson-Robinson, going back to last year: 10.6 PPR fantasy points, 12.6, 11.9, and then yesterday was 14.6. So that's pretty good, but at the same time, if he's going to throw for 160 yards and he probably maybe a touchdown, so where's the upside?
Yeah. To me, he looks just like Chigo Okonkwo right now, except Okonkwo, like there is the upside for the offense to produce like 200, 300 passing yards, which seems like it would be a miracle for Cleveland to get to that type of number.
Well, if I'm lucky enough to win one of my leagues, I'm going to have to choose between Njoku and Dalton Schultz next week. And I know Jamie and Heath weren't too interested in Dalton Schultz, but my argument is like they don't have Tank Dell now. And
I think I'd go Njoku though.
Probably, but
it's not even a slam dunk. Yeah. It's just...
All right, we got a few more. We're going to take a break. We got a few more. Drake London. Let's talk about Michael Penix and how he looked and what that will mean for Drake London at Washington next week. We'll be right back on Fantasy Football Today.
If you love football, this is the best time of the year.
This is as big as it gets.
The stuff of absolute dreams.
So, Dan, what do you think of Michael Penix yesterday?
Yeah, I was trying to find it. So this is a courtesy of Scott Barrett, Fantasy Points. Michael Penix NFL debut. He had an 81.5% catchable throw rate, which was 4th best among all quarterbacks in the week, a 0.0% turnover worthy throw rate, and a 0.0 pressure to sack rate. That was the most interesting to me, 9 pressures. That was one part about his game that I was interested to see how it translates over. I felt like they didn't really ask him to do much. They didn't need him to do much, but he had some good throws. He had some second level layered throws. He had a backside dig to Drake London earlier in the game where he's looking off left and comes back and darts the ball right in there on time, on the money. I think he's advanced from the standpoint of like where to move his eyes right after the snap to kind of hold defenses, manipulate safeties, and check that second and third level coverage. Did it rotate post snap? And those are things that I saw on his tape at Washington. The thing that I still worry about with Penix, because it's such a big change going from the Washington offense to any NFL offense, is just how will he fare under pressure? That's not something we got to see in this game with the Giants. So we'll see how that goes as we move forward. I do think they'll be smart about it and they'll continue to run, have this be mostly a run-first offense. But you already saw some of the things they can do with Penix, Atlanta, that they couldn't do with Cousins. Move the pocket, get him out of the pocket on design rollouts, throwbacks, things like that. So it'll be interesting to watch. I don't think this was the best barometer just because it was the Giants and they got out such a big lead. But I'm intrigued to watch him rest of the season.
Yeah, only a 5.8 yard average depth of target, 2.36 second average time to throw. Both those are low. I was hoping that they would air it out a little bit because we talked about last week that the Giants are by far the easiest team to attack down the field, especially with all the injuries now. So like
they just didn't have to.
I thought with them making the change that they it was because Kirk was putting a ceiling on their offense, and then they could experiment with like seeing how high they could lift it. But they really didn't do any of that. They just kind of rode the run game again.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they're not. I don't think they're going to be able to just run their way to a win at Washington on Sunday. Right. So 27 pass attempts for Penix, I believe. Let's hope it's more like 35 this week. And Drake London, it wasn't a bad game, but it was one of his worst games. Right. 10.9 PPR fantasy points, 5 for 59 on 8 targets. Again, just didn't really have to do much. He had an end zone target. It was knocked away by Deonte Banks. He also had a drop on like probably would have been only a few yard gain, but what's your, how about Xavier Worthy? Would you rather start Xavier Worthy this week at Pittsburgh or Drake London at Washington?
London.
London for me. I think this is going to be a situation where London actually benefits the most of all these Falcons receivers. Just having watched some of what Penix did yesterday, like I think we can turn the page on guys like Mooney, Pitts, obviously at this
Oh,
point.
wow. I don't know if I agree. I mean, Mooney
That's
had
how
a
I
good
feel
game.
from watching this game. Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of targets for London rest of season.
I mean,
London,
Mooney had a good game, though.
yeah.
He didn't have a good game because they didn't throw. Like from our
He
standpoint,
did have a good game. Mooney had a good game.
Oh, Mooney had a good game. Yeah, I mean, he made what was Mooney's final stat line? Did I?
Hold on. Hold, please.
So London had 38% of the first read targets, which I think to Dan's point, like he's going to be the guy on a lot of those quick hitting timing routes, throwing with anticipation. I think Penix can hit him on the sideline on a lot of those throws. But I thought Mooney's underlying stuff was decent. Do you have his stats?
5 catches for 82 yards on 6 targets.
Yeah.
And he got open. He got open because I watched the tape this morning. I thought he did a nice job. They ran, I don't know if it was their schemes or the Giants defense, but a lot of guys just wide open in the middle of the field. It made it very easy on Michael Penix. And Mooney's advantage because Cousins just kept missing Mooney for big plays a lot this year. And Penix didn't miss anyone really, as you laid out with those numbers you were giving earlier.
I'll have to rewatch it just to watch how Mooney's role was. I just feel like moving forward, it's going to be a lot of what Jacob said, that high first read target percentage for London and a ton of play action and move it through Bijan Robinson and Algier.
Yeah. I mean, there's a little bit of risk with starting London and Mooney this next week. First of all, Commanders have actually been pretty good against wide receivers.
Yeah.
I'll give this stat again on Friday when we preview this game. In their last 11 games now, they've held Marvin Harrison Jr., Amari Cooper, Deontay Johnson, A.J. Brown once, Devontae Smith twice, DJ Moore, CeeDee Lamb, Malik Neighbors, and Calvin Ridley to 67 or fewer yards. Only Marvin Harrison scoring, and then obviously had A.J. Brown scoring yesterday. But even A.J. Brown had a big game, but he had 15 targets. He didn't have that great of a game for 15 targets. Devontae Smith was disappointing. I'm not saying you can't be good, but this is not a layup of a matchup, even without Lattimore if he misses the game. And then, can they get after Penix? I just think it was like, just like sitting there like a country club reading a book against the Giants. So it's so easy. Couldn't have been more relaxed. It's like get a lounge chair next time. They're going to turn up the heat a little bit. It's going to be on the road on a Sunday night in Washington. It's going to be interesting. All right. So I think London's a starter, number 2 receiver. And I can't wait for that game. Next up, Anthony Richardson at the Giants, coming off a 22-point week where he completed 7 passes. Jacob, starter sit the next week.
Anthony Richardson?
Yeah.
I think you're sitting him. I think he's like in the low-end QB2 kind of range.
Oh, wow.
I'm much higher on him than that. Yeah.
I mean, it's just you just feel like any quarterback can do whatever they want against the Giants.
It's exactly how I feel watching this Giants team. This is as checked out as I've seen. I mean, they don't even, it's not only a matter of being checked out as a team, they don't have anyone left on their defense outside of Burns, who's playing like hurt, and Kayvon, who's been basically a bust for what he was supposed to be. And that's the whole like the rest of all their starters are not. They have like 5 guys playing that were not part of the team in training camp, and I barely know who they are.
Yeah, I have no idea who they are. I was watching today. I was like, who is that?
Yeah.
We just mentioned that they're like the easiest team to attack down the field. So there's definitely upside for Richardson. He could connect on a couple of those deep shots.
Yeah.
But I just feel like Pierce is the guy he kind of needs. That if he's not back, I don't trust Eddie Mitchell on those deep shots. So like you need rushing touchdowns.
Yeah,
And I think he'll get, which I think he will get against the Giants. Yeah.
Yeah.
They could just
it's volatile though. I understand what you're saying, Jake, but it's a pretty volatile place for us to be from a fantasy standpoint, like relying on the rushing touchdowns. But I do think we'll get at least one.
And they're just running. It's just, I don't know. It seemed like it's just like we're just Jonathan Taylor time now. Like this is a mess. We'll figure it out in the offseason.
Yeah.
All right. So let me give you would you rather start Brock Purdy against the Lions or Richardson at the Giants?
Purdy,
yeah.
Aaron Rodgers at the Bills or Richardson at the Giants?
Richardson for me.
Yeah, I'll go Richardson.
How about Jordan Love at Minnesota?
Yeah.
That's tough for me.
That one I'm gonna go Love. A lot of points in that game.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Love, but it's tough for me. I have a lot of trouble playing any quarterbacks against the Brian Flores Vikings defense.
Kyler Murray at the Rams? Kyler Murray or Matthew Stafford or Anthony Richardson?
So done with Kyler Murray.
He's
so done with him.
4 points yesterday or something.
What did he get up to?
at least 22, because he had a lot of rushing total. He played
rushing,
not play well, but ended up with a good week. He scored 22.4 fantasy points at Carolina.
I feel like the chances of the game script being similar to that Carolina game are so unlikely in this matchup.
So you going Richardson?
Yeah.
I would go Kyler. Although, what is going on with the Rams lately? Like, yeah, is that game just gonna be super low scoring?
Yeah.
Their defense, I guess, is good now.
Yeah.
And their offense just doesn't
The
care.
offense is what I'm curious about. Yeah.
Speaking of which, how about Cooper Kupp? Can we trust Cooper Kupp next week against the Arizona Cardinals? He has now scored 5.4 or fewer PPR fantasy points in 3 of his last 4 games.
So the Cardinals are this weird defense we've talked about a lot, where they're really good at taking away first read targets, and that's like totally Puka right now. And they're good at taking away perimeter stuff. They just play like a ton of safeties, deep zones, and stuff. So like it schematically makes sense for this to be a spot where Kupp does kind of just pile up a lot of 5-yard catches. But I don't want to use him, honestly.
I feel the same way as Jacob. Like, what is this? If you're in full PPR league, it's fine. Maybe as a flex, wide receiver 3, but that's about the cap for me.
Yeah, I have some concerns, and here they are. First of all, Arizona's run defense is terrible, and we know the Rams, they want to run the ball. James Conner might not play, so I think they could have no run game, and they might not score a lot of points. And if you look at these 3 horrible games for Cooper Kupp lately, here are the passing yards for Matthew Stafford in those games: 183, 160, 110. When Stafford's had good games, Kupp's had good games. It's more or less that simple. When Stafford has not had good games, Kupp has really struggled. This definitely feels kind of like a run the ball, win a low scoring game. And I have concerns. However, he is Cooper Kupp, and I feel like, I kind of feel like he's in Kelsey territory. You got to have someone good if you're going to sit Cooper Kupp. Would you start Xavier Worthy or Cooper Kupp?
That's close. I was going to ask Darnell Mooney. I think I would start Worthy.
I think I would start Worthy too.
I think there's more upside for him to have a long play, and then he is seeing similar type of usage. He's seeing like double-digit targets every week. So like he kind of has a lot of that short stuff built in, like Kupp.
Right.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Maybe it's Worthy. Oh man. But like, this is so frustrating. Like, how are we supposed to know? This is so hard. This is so hard. All you can do is present the case. And I think I just presented a pretty good case against Cooper Kupp.
Yeah. It really feels like it will just be Kyron and Blake Corum. Like I brought up the Cardinals use all these deep safeties. They have the highest light box rate in the NFL by far. They're inviting you to run. And it feels like McVay right now is just like, okay.
Yeah.
I got one more guy, Ramondre Stevenson. Like, it felt like Ramondre had a good game, but at the end of the day, it was fine. Yeah. 1 catch, 12 carries for 60 yards and a touchdown, 1 catch.
Antonio Gibson played way more.
Yep.
In a game they were like leading for a lot of it. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think I want to trust Ramondre Stevenson against the Chargers. Yeah. Okay. All right. That was an easy one. Well, you know what? Here's the good news. Like we went kind of fast there on Ramondre, so we actually have some time for the fantasy cast.
Yeah, let's go.
All right. I got 2 good ones. See if I can get both in here. Here's the first one. I don't have a name. I'm sorry, but 10-team PPR Dynasty League. It's not super flex, two flex. You can keep 5 players a year, but no more than 2 per position. It's not exactly a Dynasty League.
It's not a Dynasty, yeah.
All right. Somehow I made the championship against the guy who won last year. His team is insanely good, and after Hurts going down today, my team is looking pretty rough for next week. We have this weird rule in this league where if you win back-to-back, the entire league resets and redrafts from scratch. We trade draft picks, players, everything in this league. I think resetting is such a bad idea. Why reset if you can trade draft picks? It's pointless. But I'm considering completely tanking in the championship for the betterment of the league, because the guy in first place who's going to potentially win back-to-back is so good. He has Lamar Jackson, Saquon Barkley, Chase Brown, A.J. Brown, Higgins, Brian Thomas, Bucky Irving, Kamara, Ayuk. Insane. Would you find this wrong? Everyone in the league is indifferent on the league resetting, but all agree this guy's team is stacked, even with only keeping 5 players at the end of the year. Feels like I'm in the wrong here, and losing on purpose in the championship sounds wild, but I take second place, get my money back, and reset the league.
Dear God, can we compete? This is so soft, it's insane. Like, no, play and try to win the money. And if you don't win the money, then let fate take its course or whatever. But like, that's so crazy to me. Be like,
I can't even quite understand where
like
this
start a new league then, I guess, or something. Like I don't.
pretty much easy. You try to win, and if you win, you won your league.
Yeah.
You won. You did what you wanted to do. You won the league. Or you tried to win and you lost, and the league resets anyway. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Definitely don't tank it.
punting in the championship is the worst thing I've ever heard about in fantasy football history. The league should disband if that happens. Just call it a day. You're done. This is not worth playing out in any season. That's it.
All right, this one is from Eric Whedon. Dear Gordon, Monk, Tracy, and Peralta.
Peralta, are they all detectives?
Yeah.
Oh, these are detectives. So
Tracy.
Commissioner Gordon, Adrian Monk, Dick Tracy, and Detective Jake Peralta. All
I
right.
like Peralta the best.
Yeah, I like Monk the best. In our league, the Constitution states that in the semifinals, the number 1 seed plays the lowest remaining seed, and the number 2 seed plays the highest remaining seed. The semifinal matchups have been played, but this didn't happen. The number 1 seed played the 4 seed, and the 2 seed played the 6 seed. Given that the games have been played, do we just keep them as is, or should they be changed now? This would change one of the people in the championship. Also, on the kick-out-o-meter, how kicked out of the league should our commissioner be?
I mean, this commissioner sucks. Let me start by saying that. It's in the bylaws of the league rules that you reseed. So this obviously should have been done before the weekend. Like, I don't know why we're here now, but like, yes, on Wednesday of last week, the commissioner should have been like, I am manually doing this. The 1 is playing the 6, the 2 is playing the 4. Like, that's how the league is set up. I don't understand what's going on here.
Okay, but it didn't happen. So now what?
You mean it didn't happen because the commissioner didn't say anything, or like he wasn't paying attention?
No, they played the wrong teams. They played the wrong matchups. What do? Do you keep the head-to-head matchups, or do you say this is what it should have been, and these are who the winners should be based on the scores?
I'm at a loss.
You know what? I am going to change the matchups.
I think I would too.
Winners,
So
right?
appalled and disgusted by these scenarios that are playing out. I'm just going to say, screw it. Change the matchups. Do it after the fact. Your league is a joke anyway. Sorry to say.
Jeez.
It's hard to say. I mean, look, how could it not be? We have a situation where
honest
it's supposed to reseed. It didn't reseed. And now they're like, what do we do?
How many leagues are you the commissioner in?
2.
You're a very judgmental commissioner. I guess
because I do things right. And I don't get myself in these situations, Adam. I don't. Like, it's a crazy situation. The commissioner's just sitting there on his hands as like the wrong matchup plays out. And then it's like, whoa, well, should we do anything about it? It's like, what are you doing all week?
I forgot. He made a mistake. Jeez.
It's the playoffs. You don't make mistakes. You do your job and you do it right. You don't put yourself in a position like this.
His job probably is not to be the commissioner of fantasy football leagues. Honestly.
Probably.
Well, it is this in this scenario, Jacob. You take on the responsibility. You got to do at least a decent job. I'm not asking for much. I'm not like, let's come up with great rules. Let's write a power rankings, which is fun about your league, which I do. But like, let's just have it play out the way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to reseed. The 1 is supposed to play the 6.
Can I read it? I should have read something that I didn't. Okay.
Oh, you messed up.
Eric says, for context, the number 1 seed and myself, the number 2 seed, weren't sure if we reseeded or not. And I just was able to find a copy of the Constitution just before Sunday Night Football. I definitely should have read that.
It definitely changes things to some extent, but it just adds to how weird this league is. Like, there's a constitution of rules. Someone set out to make a constitution. That means you're one of those kind of like serious leagues, that takes it seriously. It's not like a joke, haha. But then like the playoffs hit and it doesn't reseed. You didn't set the settings right, and then no one remembers this constitution you created.
Tap dancing here and answer the question. I've given my answer.
I'm reseeding it. I'm going 1-6-2-4. That's my answer.
Reseed, play off the rules that you established, and you as the commissioner pay out everybody their money back that was in the playoffs.
Wow.
That's out of your pocket. You messed up.
Honestly, he messed up. But
take some accountability.
I don't really see how it practically affected anybody unless teams made waiver claims based on their matchups and said, okay, I'm playing this team, so I'm going to block him from getting this guy. So, that does change.
There's
things.
all sorts of stuff that could happen. I do start sits depending on how my matchup looks.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah, you
I have
shouldn't
somebody
do
who
that.
has,
You shouldn't do
yeah.
that.
If you've got we just talked about how these
Yes.
rankings are so close, it's literally just like picking a straw. And so if you've got a guy that you think has a different range of outcomes, a
Right.
tighter range of outcomes or a wider range of outcomes, depending on what your matchup looks like, you
Well
have
said.
correlation plays that you might have. Like
Adam, you're destroyed on this take.
Don't
You're
do it.
sorry,
entirely
I'm
wrong.
beyond the
There's
box
no
score.
case
I
to
like
be
can't
made, Adam.
comprehend.
You're
No,
done. You are
you're-
done. There
you
are
are
range of
better off.
outcome plays. Yes, sometimes you don't want to play the high risk, high upside. You're wrong. You're done.
You're better off. Don't even look at who you're playing. Set the lineup that you think is going to score the most fantasy points. You start overthinking, you start over tinkering, and you're out. All right, TM.
I mean, you did a good job rhyming there, but I don't know if you made a good point.
Tinkering. You overthinkering means over tinkering, and you're out. TM.
You're out.
We are out. Thank you so much for watching and listening to the Beyond the Box Score here on Fantasy Football Today.
Vote.
We'll-
Vote for us.
Vote for us. Yes. Sportspodcastgroup.com. Vote now. Best fantasy betting and gaming category. Make it happen. All right. Good luck in week 17, everybody. If you get there. See you later.